Good evening, everybody. It's me, Comic Crack. It's Sunday. How you doing? Um, Rasa and I had a chat this afternoon over on her channel. It was a little later than normal, but if you want to go and check that out, have a head on over to Rasa's channel and sit with us for a little bit as we talk about stuff. I didn't read a ton this week, so it'll probably be one of my classic short videos, so only 45 minutes instead of 55 minutes. So let's just jump into just a couple of things I got when I went to pick up my pull list. I've been going through my comic collection, as you know, those of you who have been joining me for those live streams, whether it's in person at the time or watching them afterwards. A couple of those have some numbers that are kind of surprising to me, to be honest. I didn't know that it would be that kind of exciting or popular, which is great. I loved going through the collection. It was great to kind of sit with it, see a bunch of books again. But when I was going through it, I was noticing some gaps, and it's the tinge of the little bit of grading that I did in my life, which was strictly for selling comics. You end up getting rid of a couple of comics that's like, damn, I kind of wish I had that one. One of them was Batman Beyond #1. So when I went to pick up my books on Saturday, I sold some stuff this weekend as well too, which was nice. So I made, I think, only like $50 or something, but either way, it's stuff getting out the door. So that money turned around. I had to get myself a short box, and then I picked up my pull list and saw this on the shelf. So this was one of the books. I had the free comic book day edition with kind of the white UPC area there. I got it graded and sold it. I can't remember what I got for it. I must have done pretty well because that's why I graded and sold it. But then I had that gap in there, so it's really awesome to have that book back, even though it's a newer version. Doesn't matter. The story is still the same. They haven't changed anything. And then very excited to get not only the new issue of the Enfield Gang Massacre, #6, but while I was there, I decided to ask them. I looked in their back issue bins that they have. Galaxy Comics has two sections. Their store is in a couple of locations. There's obviously a warehouse where they put a lot of their stuff. They still have the upstairs. It's about half a block away from their new location where they have their back issue bins and stuff. Those haven't been open to the public for quite a while, unfortunately, because I used to love going and digging around there. Even though the prices on their back issues weren't the best, it was a good place to find modern back issues. If you missed an issue, that's the place to go to in town. Chances are they've got some of the more newer stuff if you missed one. So while I was there, I figured I'd ask, any chance you have an issue #4, because they didn't have it in that location, the small amount of back issue bins they have there. He called over, and lo and behold, 2 minutes later, it got walked over to me. So very excited now to have that whole series. I thought that this was the last issue, but as you can see, there's another gun pointing in from the side here. So maybe this is going to continue. I don't know. I'll probably read #5 again as well, and continue enjoying this series. Yeah, so that means if the 6th issue is out, that means they're going to be doing the trade right away, I guess. So keep your eyes out for that if you're interested. Then the books that I read, there's a new Firefly, the Fall Guys issue. This particular issue hit a little bit of a slump for me. I found the writing was very kind of rudimentary. It wasn't even necessarily moving you through the page. It was just kind of there. But I'm liking this series. I think the premise is pretty cool. I'm curious to see how it's going to wrap up. Our gang has been kind of set up in an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister, and now the government, the alliance, is on the hunt for them to bring them to justice. So we don't know the full story of the setup yet. We're not sure who was actually trying to do it. I mean, I have my suspicions. I don't remember if it's actually been spelled out, and I just know this inherently because in a previous issue they spelled it out already. But it's a fun book. The team is great. It's always great to see this team. I was saying to Rasa this afternoon that it's just a little bit of a bummer. The art isn't spectacular. It's hard to recognize some of the characters sometime, but it is good stuff, and it's the comfy sweater comic for me, right? That's the one that I can sit and I just kind of read it and I just enjoy it. Even if it's not the best comics in the world, it's just nice to kind of unwind to. Similar thing with these as well. Catching up on Usagi Yojimbo. I thought maybe the final issue from this was out, and I guess not. I didn't see it on the shelves. This is the one that was in my pull box. This is Ice and Snow Part 4 of 5. At this point, I think a few people have already talked about it. Not much else to add. It's a good issue. This is a pretty good series so far. I'm digging it. Another one that's pretty comfortable reading. You're not going to get thrown any curveballs. You know what to expect. I love that it's all a snowy landscape. I like Usagi's eyes there when he realizes who's on the hunt for them and then tells them, we just got to run. We just got to run. We cannot let them. Come on. We can't let him catch up to us. And he just kind of takes off. So a solid issue. But what I enjoyed a little more than this one was the next issue in the Space Usagi, which this is issue number 2 of 3. This was a really fun read, and I think one of the things that worked for me the most was kind of the end, the kind of turn that takes place. I'll be curious to see how he addresses it. We'll get to in a minute here. But the other thing is, I'm digging the coloring in this one. It feels like, almost like trying to do paint splatter backgrounds. I assume all of this is digital these days. But I like the way that outer space looks there. I kind of think that's a neat use of color for that stuff. Yeah, just a solid read. Nothing really to report to you other than it just being a really good read. So his master's son has been promised to hold on a sec. Is set up to be married to a woman from another clan that they're trying to kind of build an alliance with. That kind of classic story that you don't have a choice. You have to do this. This is your lot in life. So they finally end up meeting this woman, and she's pretty badass. She's right in the fray with them, battling away. And that night when Usagi is on watch, she comes out to hang out with them, and they talk about like looking up at the stars and how beautiful night. Yes, indeed. The stars are especially bright tonight. Sometimes I wish we never discovered space flight. Once we left the Earth, the stars lost their mystique. I know what you mean, but on a calm, quiet night such as this, I can see what our ancestors saw. So nice little moment there. And then, of course, this side here. It ends at almost a makeout sesh, and she gets kind of caught. And it's just kind of it's a solid just story moment of those two panels tell a lot. You know what I mean? That's very, very good use of storytelling. It's not overloaded with text. There's just enough. It's pretty awesome. And then, of course, the shame that he feels with almost with like betraying his master kind of thing. So I'm curious. There's only one more issue within this 3-parter, so I don't think he's going to have much room to dive into it. But I'm hoping that he digs into that a little bit more, because I like that idea in a book like this. So a fun read. Firing through this. Not even 10 minutes yet, and we're almost done. I think it's because it's all books like this where there's just not a ton to talk about. So this is Dracula, issue number 4. The final. Hello, Paul in the 619. Looks like a cool story. Yeah, the Usagi, I think if you don't know Usagi, you can pretty much start anywhere with Usagi, I think, Paul. There's some really good collections as well, too, if you're not familiar. It's just good storytelling, solid stuff. So this is the Universal Monsters line of books. James Tynion and Martin Simmons on Dracula issue 4. And I was saying this afternoon, at this point, there's nothing new that they can tell you really with the Dracula story. You're here for the art. It's beautiful art. I really enjoyed this book. I liked this series a lot more than I thought I was going to. I'm really glad that I gave that first issue a shot, because this was a lot of fun. And then the thing that I've been asking myself since the beginning, and I think we've talked about it on the channel, what is this Universal Monsters line, and are they going to do more? And the answer is yes, they are going to do more, and I'll show you in 1 sec. I just want to show you that spread there too. So really cool stuff. The answer is yes, they are. And the next one is going to be Creature from the Black Lagoon, by Dan Waters, Ram V, Matthew Roberts, and Dave Stewart, coming in April 2024. So I guess this was the one to test the waters. I will absolutely have a look at this one. I'm very curious because it's Ram V, but I also know that if it's the same as this kind of book, even though this is Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives, I imagine that it's not going to get too far away from like the original material, because this sure as hell didn't. So I'm not expecting. I think it's an interesting thing to have Ram V on a book like that. So I'm very curious to see what that's going to be about. Who knows? Maybe working in those confines, finding a new thread of something to explore. I'll look at it when it comes out. Finally tonight. Finally, and then I got something else to show you too. I've started in on Outlander. So this is issue 1 and 2, and I think it is let's have a look here. Yeah, it's actually a 7-issue series. I have all 7 issues finally. And I was intrigued by this. There were some really cool moments. This is Malibu 1987, I think I said this afternoon. Yeah, 1987. I was kind of surprised at it. When I first found this book, I don't remember which issue I found. I remember finding it in like a $1 bin or a 50-cent bin or something like that. Flipping it open and being intrigued by the art. The art is kind of what drew me to it. I thought it looked pretty great. Reading it, it really read like an episodic TV show. And at the end of issue 1, there's kind of an introduction to the creators. They both come from television. I think they both came from television. I know the writer did for sure. And it really shows with this book because he overwrites this book something fierce. Like into kind of a territory where it was a hard slog through the second issue. And I was ready to read the whole thing in one sitting. When I kind of finished this first issue and started getting in the second one, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to read 7 issues of this kind of density. I'm just not going to be able to do it in one sitting. It's going to have to wait. That said, though, I am kind of intrigued by the story. There's some really nice moments. One of the things I thought was interesting is the organization here is called ICE. In this world, it's the Institute for the Control of Societal Endangerment, which is a fucking hell of a title. But there's some interesting storytelling going on here. So this first issue focuses on this guy here, names be damned. He's part of this organization, and it seems like people in this kind of upper position that he's in, they don't get out much. Their job is to kind of man the computers and kind of run the show from their desk. It feels like there's a lot more of that world to uncover, as far as why is he not allowed out? Like there's something else going on here that they haven't touched on yet, but he's really feeling his life. Like he's really struggling, and he acknowledges that in himself. Like, look at this. Look at that hand reaching out there. That's a good shot. I don't care who you are. Like that's a really good drawing, man. There's some Ted McKeever line work happening there, and some of the shadows in the face really remind me of McKeever. But I love that, and hands are a big thing in this one because hands play a part in the second issue as well too. So with our other character in the story, who eventually gets this as his hand doesn't work, so he kind of gets this biomechanical hand attached to him, or at least grafted with his body, I guess is the better way to say it. So our main dude in this one is having a moment, and he goes for his kind of massage, and he's kind of hinting that, you know, he needs more. And right away, you know, it's not about sex, even though it's in towels, or at least I didn't read it as that. There was something else going on. He wanted physical contact, yeah, absolutely, but he wanted something more because this guy is lonely. This guy is struggling. And of course, it kind of escalates a bit, and he ends up tearing and hitting her. And she very robotically, which makes me think like this must be a world where there's robots, because she really reacts like an android through the whole thing. But then he kind of has his breakdown in these panels here, and all he says is, "I'm drowning alone," which I thought was just really a nice moment of like showing this vulnerability. Like, this guy is really having a fucking tough go of it here, and he's acknowledging it, you know, instead of it being like this subtextual thing that plays through the whole thing. I thought it was nice change to kind of say that out loud. So yeah, there's moments in this that I'm for real enjoying. It's just hard to get to those moments when the story is so goddamn dense. But the art absolutely helps. There's some more stuff there. There you go. I think that's focusing. So yeah, there you go. So Outlander, I will make it through this. I just don't know how long it's gonna take. And again, it's nice to see kind of ads for other stuff. The Trouble with Girls. And then finally tonight, I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Colin Blanchett. I started reading it. I haven't finished yet. I'm kind of blown away by what I'm reading here. Colin was kind enough to mail me an issue, this copy of Quality Pictures that was given away free, I think, at I don't remember what comic convention, but it's Josh Pettinger and Simon Hanselman that put this together. Motherfuckers got Charles Burns to contribute something. Nate Garcia is in here. Alex Graham is in here. Sammy Harcum is in here. Ethan Van Sciver. Noah Van Sciver is in here. Jasper Jubinville is in here. Like, it's a powerhouse lineup. And there's your kind of credits on the back. It's a powerhouse lineup that, how the fuck are you giving this away for free? Colin Blanchett, hello. Nice to see you. Just talking about you. Your ears were burning. I just don't understand how this came to be, and that how it's free. And I saw, because I do watch the manga chat every once in a while, and they were saying that I saw their video where they just came back from this comic festival, and one of them was saying, yeah, I've already seen copies up on eBay going for crazy prices, and kind of the acknowledgement that's like, well, I mean, we knew that was going to happen, you know, because of this powerhouse lineup. So Colin, thank you so much for sending this to me. This is top of the stack to read. Like I said, I started it. I read the first couple of stories, but I haven't finished it yet. So I didn't want to talk about it too much beyond that. But Charles fucking Burns, dude, how the fuck does that even happen? I mean, I can only assume that they just paid people out of their own pockets for the contribution. Is this a story from Burns that appeared somewhere else? I'm guessing so, because I'd be surprised if they got some original piece from him. But again, I don't know the story. I didn't see the manga chat video where they talked about the creation of this book, so I missed that episode. The other things that are on the reading stack is I want to try to get into Berserk this year. This is going to be like my big read of the year. My son has got a ton of the books. I had a bunch of these small ones, maybe the first 13 or something, and I passed them on to him. And then he's been getting the big black volumes, like the big books, to kind of make up the rest of it. So he's got about, I think, 4 of those books, maybe 4 or 5 of them. So I'm hopeful to kind of read everything that he's got. I've read these first couple of issues way back when. This I got. Excuse me, sorry. This I think I got at a convention in Toronto when we lived in Ontario back in like 99, 2000, 2001-ish type of time. I also ended up getting a #1 that was in Japanese as well too. I think at a sci-fi comics festival or something like that. There was a ton of like anime stuff and manga. It was unbelievably expensive, but I couldn't resist because I knew the anime. I was a big fan of the cartoon there. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into this. I admit I am a little bit nervous about diving into it. It is a pretty big commitment, but I'm trying not to put too many kind of limitations on myself, too many rules on when and how often I'm going to read it. The other one that's still sitting here to get into is Barefoot Gen. I'm really looking forward to getting into this one as well too. I just haven't. The world is horrific right now, so I think I've been kind of putting this one off a little bit, but it is standing by. And I also got to say, like, now that I've organized shit, there's still a pile up there that's moving. That's kind of the last thing to deal with. It's nice to be able to sit down here again and not feel overwhelmed by stacks of comics everywhere. So I'm really glad I took the time to do some sorting. I've got a huge stack of comics out in the next room there that are eventually making their way out of the house in some fashion. I don't know how yet. I think I've been putting stuff in Lone Star's system as well too, to see if there's any trade value there. I think I've accumulated now so far maybe another $45 American in trade, and that's on top of what's already there that they're processing. So I may try to trade in another stack and really build up a big reserve and just do a huge Lone Star Comics order and fill in some gaps, because a lot of the stuff on my wish list are kind of just gaps, like just issues that I need to finish a mini series. I may try to buy some more expensive books, like expensive meaning like they're $6 instead of $2.50 is what I mean by expensive. Not ones that I would normally go to when I do Lone Star. When I do Lone Star orders, I usually stick around the $2.50, $3 range. I very rarely have gone higher than that, because it's just the shipping and it ends up not being a good deal. The $2.50 comics are kind of borderline, when you throw in that shipping. Yeah, so I may kind of bump that up a little bit. They've got some Corbin stuff on there, for example, that like there's an issue, I think, of one of them that's like $10 or something with trade credit. I'm much more willing to buy one of those $10 books, because I'm not really kind of paying for it in some weird way, even though I am. So we'll see what else I pull out of the drawers. Maybe there's some more stuff, and maybe I do another submission. I'm very curious, though, to sit down with those numbers afterwards, because I kept the receipt for shipping out the first box. I'll see how much, see if this actually turns out to be a thing, or if I should just keep adding to it, because then my value is just going to grow. Because the last box that I sent was surprisingly cheap. I think it was around the $30, $35 range. I was expecting kind of $45. So it was cheaper than I thought. I even had old Lone Star packaging, so I basically packaged it up the exact same way that they ship it to you, even with those foam corners in it, like have your stuff back. Even the packing peanuts, as a matter of fact, I dumped some of those in there too, I think. So they've got all their packing materials back, so I thought that was also very nice of me. All right, I'm just babbling about shit now, so thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next weekend. Probably going to be on my channel for a chat with Rasa, if everything works out for us. If not, I'll see you next Sunday. Right on, everybody. Have a good week. Oh, hello, Dan Elson. I'm curious to find out how that goes. I bought a lot from Lone Star, but never sent any comics in to sell back. I've done it once or twice before for trade. Maybe only once. I don't remember. I've also done it with WoW Comics way back in the day. Especially for me in Canada, it's borderline whether it's worth it. But I was talking to Rasa after the stream about it too, and it's like the comics that I have for sale, the comics that I'm getting out of my collection, nobody locally is going to buy them, which I proved to myself by holding a little buy it now thing on our Facebook group. I sold some things, but there was a lot of stuff I posted that just didn't get any interest. So then my other option is to take it to Red River Books. He'll take almost anything that I give for trade. He generally takes everything that I bring him if I'm going to trade in. his collection I've been through 1.5 million times. Like, he'll probably give me like $100 a credit, maybe even more. At this point, there's no way I'll be able to spend that money in his shop and find stuff that I genuinely want. So then my other option is to sell to him. He generally doesn't give a huge amount when you sell, which makes sense because that's more of an investment for him, a trade. He's bringing stuff in, stuff is going out. It kind of works itself out. So then I'm in a situation where I don't make much money off the stuff. So then my next guess is, well, I mean, I like to trade stuff in. Lone Star has a huge collection. There's always stuff available from my want list, stuff that I really do want. Maybe I should just invest that money. I'm going to order from them at some point anyway. Let's be honest. I usually do a couple of times a year. I may as well try to build that credit. I think it's going to come out in my favor. I don't think it's going to be a huge amount in my favor. $35 to ship, probably another $35 to get the comics back to me ish Canadian. So $70, and then I may get like $80 of credit. So I think basically it'll be like I've gotten the comics for free. I've had to pay shipping, and then we'll break it down to see how much that actually turns into per comic. That's a lot of information. I hope that made sense. Do they only buy comics if it's on their list, or can you just send them whatever you've got to get rid of? That's an excellent question. You cannot send them whatever. So what you do is there's a section on my comic shop. I'm going to open the page, and why don't we do this? If you're into this, Dan, I will gladly walk you through the process here. Let's do this together. As a matter of fact, this might be interesting. So share screen. So here's what you do. So I'm logged into my account. I go to how to sell, and right up here, there's this record items. So let's put in 8 Ball. You type in the title, you hit search. It comes up here. So 8 Ball, this is maybe a bad example because out of the 23 issues that are available, they need 22 of those issues. So what you do is you click on it. And if I had a copy of number 1, they suggest if you're not good at grading, just always choose the green option. So then you would put in, if I had 1 issue of this, I'd put in the number 1 and then I'd hit submit. Now, sometimes you might come up with, let's look for the issue that they're not looking for. Like I said, 8 Ball maybe wasn't the best example because I think they're probably always going to be looking for copies of 8 Ball. Oh, I don't see the one that they're not looking for. Okay, so let's go back. Let's do this one. Codename Ric Flair. So here's a good example. So cover 1A, they're not currently buying this issue. Estimated time until it's on their want list, 6 months. Even if I have stuff that's not currently wanted by them, I still input it into my account because what it does is it tracks. So I've recorded 168 comics. Out of those 168, they want 32. So we can click on 32 items and it'll tell me. So my cash payment for those comics would be $38.88 American. My trade credits for if I sent all these in, $53.38. So then what you do is when you're ready to send it in, you go over the list, make sure everything is correct. You make sure that your mailing address is correct, which I shouldn't have that on the screen. And then you submit the list. You have to accept. You submit the list. It goes to them and they review it. And then they'll see if they actually want to go through with that offer. You have to wait for them to respond to you before you send it. They'll send you this kind of packing invoice with a unique number on it. You include that with the box and then you send off the comics. Now, what they usually do is they'll have a timeline. Let's see. I don't think it'll say anything on mine, but let's go back here. So view account. So right now I have 0 credit because they haven't finished. And then here's my transaction. So received January 30th. So they made their offer on January 15th. I think I had until February 15th to get the comics to them. So it showed up a lot quicker than I thought it would. They received it and now they're processing it. So then they'll let me know, and then I'll have trade credit. And then you just kind of go from there. So the key is to start at how to sell, sign into your account, record items, and just kind of whatever comics you have for sale or trade, record them in, and go from there. The trickiest part is the grading stuff. That's the trickiest part, I think. So how do I stop screen share? There we go. Yes, thanks for the help. I bought a ton from them, but their shipping is bonkers these days. Yeah, it's pricey. For me in Canada, it's not that much different than it always has been. It's always been pretty expensive getting, especially the amount of comics that I get from them. I think I usually get around 30 books. Let's see, what was my last? Okay, well, November 22nd, it was only 19 items. The one before that was 34 items. So I feel like I'm generally around the 30 comics. When I order from them, I know it's going to be expensive. So I usually fill that box up quite a bit to make it worthwhile. But yeah, it hasn't gone up a ton in my experience getting across the border. It's always been fucking expensive. I'm not like you with frequently selling comics. I actually just keep buying comics and never sell any. But your channel has encouraged me to consider a big purge, probably a decade overdue. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's a good thing, Dan. I think it's really important to kind of do that. I mean, I'm dealing with the space that you're seeing. Like there's a bookshelf over here. There's that bookshelf back there. These, and then I've got some of a bookshelf upstairs, but me and my wife share that one. It's also got board games and all sorts of other things on it. So because I have this space, once these comics start piling up, it's like, nah, this can't happen. Like I'm not going to live in Red River Bookshop and have stacks of books on the floor. I'm not doing that. And honestly, it helps when you have a place that you can trade with. So I think that really helps. And if Lone Star is, because I'm assuming you're in the States, Dan, I think so. It's probably cheaper for you to get stuff shipped back and forth to them. Then honestly, I'd look into it, because you'd be surprised. I've had some weirdo books that show up on their list, and they want, like, they'll give me like $3 or $4 trade for it. It's like, fuck yeah, I'll send that in. You know, generally it's around the $1.50 range for trade value. But with some of this stuff, it's like, I ain't selling it anywhere else for even 50 cents. I may as well spend a bit of money to get some value. They used to have a $5 flat rate shipping in the States, and the cheapest books were $1.35. Boy, I miss that. Holy hell. So what is the flat? Do they still have a flat rate now? Has it like gone up to $20 or $30 for you? That's amazing. I've completely filled an entire room with comics, and I can't access most of them. Yeah. I've literally decided to just wait till we move, which should be soon, to build shelves and get organized. Yeah, and that's the hard part. And again, Dan, like, there's no judgment here. I am a hoarder at heart, 100%, which is also why I feel like I need to keep on top of it, which is why I force myself to do this sometimes, because I know that deep in my heart, I want to keep everything. I want to keep it all. And it got easier and easier the more I did it. But the first few times, it was a fucking struggle. It was really, really difficult, but I kind of just pushed through it. And at this point, I've done it so much, it's actually really easy. And honestly, it's kind of fun, especially when I look at Lone Star and see all the books that I want that are kind of in stock. I'm not going to show you my want list. We won't go into that world because then you'll beat me to it. I'll kayfabe affect some books. I'll comic crack affect some books. So it makes it easier when there's stuff out there. That's why I like the trading thing. Money is always nice. Of course it is. But honestly, let's face it, we're going to turn around and use that money probably to buy more comics. So I really like the trade aspect of it. I'm much more willing to trade with people because you never know. You might find some good shit. The flat rate shipping from Lone Star is long gone. Now it's around $12 plus, around $5 in tax on top of every order. Oh shit, yeah. I'm guessing our want lists are similar. You have superb things. Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate that. Right back at you. If our want lists are similar, you also have exquisite taste. Yeah, so that's why I ain't showing you what I got. Yeah, I hope I'm curious if I'm going to hit that number for the trade. I think that'll be great if I can get that much. Like the $80-$90 range would be awesome. Then if it is that, I'm way more interested in sending them another package of stuff, because if I can build up that trade credit to a couple of $100, why not just do one giant order? I may as well. Yeah, man. I'm always willing. I'm absolutely always willing, Dan. um yeah, I mean, and I would say that generally to everybody. I've done it a couple of times in the past where I've posted videos, where I've shown stuff that I have for sale or for trade. I did it with undergrounds and got some good contacts, people buying stuff through there. But I'm 100% open to doing trades as well. So if you have a stack of stuff, let me know, and whatever I have, I can make a video, and show you what I got, because I'm down with that. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, Dan. Great questions. I'm glad I could help. Always good to see you, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Colin, good to see you as well. Paul in the 619, I don't think we've ever met before. Thank you very much for coming and checking out the stream. Absolutely no rush. There's no rush. I've always got stuff that is kind of standing by to trade and to get rid of. So there's no rush. Okay. Later, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.